How your personality affects what you play.
Turns out this video is actually pretty easy to write. In 2016, Dr. Jeremiah Appleton and his team ran a study where they would have gamers fill out surveys regarding their personality. They would agree or disagree with statements like, I have a colorful imagination when I am alone, I enjoy the company of others, I worry I am not accomplishing enough, or I feel the need to win even if it hurts someone else's feelings, etc., etc. All statements you can feel free to answer quietly to yourself if you like. Dr. Appleton then had the subjects report what video game genres they enjoyed the most. And in most cases, subjects that typically enjoyed JRPGs had more quiet, reserved personalities and often had serious doubts as to whether they had made the right decision or done the right thing in games and in life. Those that typically enjoyed platformers and more fast-paced games like Doom often had a strong tendency to be critical of themselves. Fans of puzzle games like
That kind of makes sense. The thing with like the whole Final Fantasy thing, you're kind of like neutral and you don't know what's right or wrong. You're just doing things versus like Doom, which is like very aiming intensive or whatever. I kind of am like that, but it's only in like certain aspects of my life, my like critical about myself.
Like Tetris or Hue prefer a certain amount of change and variety in their everyday lives, and become dissatisfied when governed by restrictions and limitations. The same goes for fans of Minecraft and other open-world sandbox games who also specifically have personalities that lend themselves to a great need for other people to like and admire them. And if you're fighting...
So I'll say this. I would imagine there's like some sort of gradient to these things. It's not like if you're hypercritical, you're gonna play things like Doom and like all these try-hard aimer type games or whatever. Like, it's possible for one person to play like all of these games and just chill out, you know?
Finding these statements to feel accurate of your own gaming preferences and personality, quit that, because every word of what I just said was made up. Including that first line. This video was a royal bitch to make.
Oh wait, inhales. Turns out this video was actually pretty easy to write. It was all fake.
How does our personality affect what games we prefer playing? It's a damn good question, and one that has been investigated by people much smarter than me. But before we dive into this, I'd like to make a couple of disclaimers and a couple of examples. Out of you. I didn't set that whole opening thing up just to screw with you, although I didn't necessarily not enjoy doing that. I did it to point out that personality psych is a slippery slope.
Yeah.
If you happen to really find yourself believing what I said about personalities there, you fell victim to the Barnum effect, which is how psychics and horoscope writers stay in business.
Yep.
Ambiguous statements that can be true.
All that shit is the fakest stuff ever. The horoscope, mind reading, psychic, card reading, whatever. That is all fake. I hate that stuff.
Of pretty much anyone when presented specifically to you about you can very easily begin to feel true. Pair that with a little bit of confirmation bias, and suddenly everything we talk about today may lead you to believe that you are an incredibly creative person just because you put more hours into Persona 5 than your entire undergrad degree. I'm not judging, that's a self-burn, but I just want you to be aware. Watch your footing on this video and take it with a grain of salt. Alright, enough disclaimers. Let's dive into the tremendously fascinating world of personality. One more thing though, sorry. You should know that personality is not the most rock-solid field in psych. There are measures developed to try and capture our personalities, but between the changing of age and the changing of culture around us, who we are is ever shifting. Also, most research tends to be correlational, so what we're talking about today is tendencies and a snapshot of what we think we know, not laws. So again,
it hit the corner.
Salt and its intersection with game preference. If I asked you to give me a breakdown of your favorite types of games to play, you'd probably start by telling me some genres. You might even rattle off some titles. You put a lot of time into Ghost Runner. Maybe you get cheap thrills and fast-paced games like that in Mirror's Edge. Oh, you and your friends are still playing Animal Crossing. I respect it. You might enjoy the sensation of dunking on your friends, or maybe your dreams are just a little bit too peaceful and you'd like to go out of your way to ruin that whole thing. Maybe you tell me you like getting absorbed in a story like something seen in Xenoblade or Tsushima. Maybe your pants get tighter when you shave off a few seconds of your Portal speedrun, or when you finally unlock that last support for Dorothea. Ah, a fellow fan of the opera, I see. No matter your personal syllabus of titles or ways to play said titles, we can measure genre.
So I don't think my view towards like games is like games are more like slots. So like, you know how in like World of Warcraft you have like slots for armor and shit. I kind of think video games are like that. So like you can have a favorite FPS game. You can have a favorite like third person shooter. You can have a favorite MMO. You can have a favorite RTS, and so on and so forth for every other like genre. So, I mean, yeah, you could ask someone, but what's your favorite one? Well, it's like, I don't know. It just depends on what mood I'm in, really.
Genre preference. But if I asked you to give me a breakdown of your personality, you'd probably talk in more circles than your buddy trying to get you to invest in Dogecoin. It's hard to get a true read on personality, but psychologists have come up with a few methods. And the one we'll be using today is the Big 5 personality traits developed by Lewis Goldberg. The Big 5 traits are sort of the most accepted, replicable, and used measure in the world of psych today, and each trait essentially works on a sliding scale with
what is this? High openness, high consciousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. Okay. Oh, there's like a high side and a low side.
Most people falling somewhere in the middle. Generally, personalities don't sit at the extremes, just closer to one end. Remember, we're ever changing. We'll dive more deeply into each individual trait as we get to some of the bigger points of the video, but just as an example, openness, to wildly oversimplify it, refers to our willingness and desire to seek out/think about new things. People with high openness tend to be very creative, enjoy trying new things, are extremely curious, and are happy with change. Those with low openness despise change. You won't catch them rearranging their room or changing their schedule much. They don't like new, and they don't like abstract ideas. Conscientiousness.
So for all of these things, like little, I don't know, word things or whatever that he's talking about, I think you can have varying degrees of these things for different aspects of your life. So you can be open towards one thing in life, but not be open about another thing in life. So let's say you're open about, I don't know, traveling around, and just seeing new things, but you're not open about trying a new food. It's like, I want to eat a steak, I want to eat a potato, and that's it. End of story. So like, what would I put my little slider at?
Sort of deals with how organized you are. Do you pay attention to detail and strategize, or act on a whim? Agreeableness refers to our interest in others. Are we empathetic and helpful, or are we self-serving and oblivious to others? Neuroticism deals with emotional stability and how you handle stress, and I think you're already familiar with extroversion. At our core, we all land somewhere on each of these 5 scales. Maybe you're pretty low on the extroversion scale, but you are highly agreeable, so you really empathize with people, therefore you might enjoy a good emotional story, but don't care much for partaking in real-world human interaction. As an introvert, I can relate to you. Maybe you're highly conscientious, so you love games where you plan ahead and strategize, but due to your neuroticism, you often get stressed when you have to make a tough decision. Maybe you over-prepare for that mission or get choice paralysis when trying to decide on an outfit or a skill. This is all my speculation, by the way. I'm just trying to give you an idea of how your personality might affect how you approach titles. Luckily, though, we don't have to speculate much. There has been some remarkable work done here by one Dr. Nick Yee of Quantic Foundry.
Oh?
In 2015, Yee and his team gathered data from over 140,000 gamers using their homegrown gamer motivation profile, which you can still take now if you like.
Are there any other games you have enjoyed playing recently? Game 1, Game 2, Game 3. So Game 1, and then 2 and 3 are optional.
and I recommend you do at some point. It's really eye-opening and fun. Link in the description. Pop it open in a new tab and take it after you
maybe I'll
finish
do that.
this. From this data, they found that gamers typically play due to a combination of any of these 12 motivations. You might play to stretch your creative muscles, you might play to get wrapped up in a story or to feel like you're someone else. Some folks do it for the challenge, some folks do it for the power trip, many of you crave the community and the competition, and some of us just like to blow shit up. Likely though, we are all some combination of any of these. People are rarely so one-dimensional. And since most people exhibit multiple of these motivations when playing games, Yi and his colleagues used a little technique called multidimensional scaling for the data, which maps out the correlation between these variables. If two motivations are more correlated, they are put closer together, whereas motivations that are less correlated are placed farther apart. Meaning, since these two dots are close to each other, if you were really into gaming for destruction, you are likely also into it for excitement, but less likely to be into it for strategy. When you take a look at the
What? Oh, well, so I guess this is just somebody's, I don't know, thing. So, if you like fantasy, that means you don't really like challenge? Or if you like challenge, you don't really like fantasy? Well, have they played World of Warcraft recently? She. So if you like excitement, then you don't like discovery? Kind of. Power is like kind of in the center, like it's like off or whatever, but you know, if this is the center, it's like just slightly off. Power is kind of like related to everything, more or less. I'm just trying to look at like all the outliers and stuff. So strategy and destruction are kind of the opposite, or completion and destruction. Well, I just destroyed that PR for that speed run, so like what? Or maybe he's talking about like inside the game. Like what was that one game where you could like destroy buildings? Or maybe it was like a Battlefield or something. Like I don't know, it's like hard. Oh, so story and design. Like, what do these mean, though? I don't know what these mean. Like, story and design are always closely related? Does this mean, like, something like Minecraft? Like, where you can just make your own shit? Or story? Huh.
The full map from the data, you can get a better idea of what motivations are related. And you might see that you probably fall into one of these three clusters, or maybe even dip your toes into two of them, which is exactly what Yi and his team noticed. There were three higher level structures, three primary types of players that most motivation correlations fall under. Action social, which combines the love of fast-paced gameplay with player interaction. Immersion creativity, which combines the interest in stories, player expression, and exploration. And mastery achievement, which mixes the appeal of strategic gameplay, tough challenges, and chasing achievement. The discovery and power motivations are tricky. They don't really fit in just one cluster, and according to Yi, they sort of act as bridges between the three major groups. Meaning, if you identify with the immersion creativity cluster and the mastery achievement cluster, discovery likely really appeals to you. Now keep in mind, this is simply motivations we're talking about.
That is exactly how controller players play. Just, you know, aim assist will take over. Jesus take the wheel, or aim assist take the wheel.
Not how personality affects them. But what's fascinating is that much like the big five personality traits, the gamer motivations map.
Oh my god, there's like one for NA, Western Europe. Oh my god, I want to like zoom in on this. Oh, that one before was like for NA.
Is consistent across several different regions and cultures, which could suggest that gaming motivations and personality are both in some ways universal for.
Bro, look how dialed in this man is. His shit is like so stable. Meanwhile, she's over here like this is the funniest shit. She's got the gyros all fucking engaged, and he's just like
all of us, and furthermore could be related in some sort of consistent manner. As I was reading up on this and writing the script for this video, I realized that all that was left to do was find proof of this relationship. And as I embarked on this noble quest into the sweaty migraine-inducing DMV that is Google Scholar and try to find some research that could connect the two, I was surprised to find that Dr. Yi had already broken ground on that research, making my job a lot easier. God bless this man. Only a few weeks later, the good people over at Quantic gathered data from the gamers who filled out their gamer motivation profile and a Big 5 personality test. They then analyzed the correlations between the participants' offline personality traits and their gaming motivations. Pretty much what I made up in the beginning of this video, but this time I'm not juicing your kiwis, Connor. They actually did this and did it correctly. And what they found was statistically significant correlations, meaningful connections that, based on the sample size, did not happen by chance. They stumbled upon the invisible strings that connect who we are to the experiences we love. The action social cluster, which contains the high motivations of excitement, competition, and community, were largely connected to high levels of extroversion. Now, extroversion is usually characterized by people as being outgoing or being good around others. But research—
Bro, the top 1% of people in their given, like, sport are the craziest motherfuckers. All right? Look at Michael Jordan. Look at all the guys in the basketball, in the old days or whatever. Kobe Bryant. I can't really say. I don't know. Maybe it's for Shaq. I don't know. The tippy top guys. Maybe this is a bad example using outliers, but I just know the people at the tippy tops of their fields of, like, I don't know, esports, like FPSs, or like real sports, like baseball, soccer, football, whatever. The tippy top guys are always the most craziest.
Research supports that it's more accurately characterized by excitability, emotional expressiveness, cravings of excitement, and gaining energy in social situations. Not necessarily being good in them, but gaining something from it, even if it's simply competition or attention. Consider this. You don't have to like people to be an extrovert, and yet you may still gain something from being around them. So you may very well choose to pick up fighting games because your extroversion makes you crave the competition, just as well as you may play action adventures for the constant excitement, or MMOs and social sims because you do actually like the people in your life and get something meaningful from kind interaction with others. Another correlation they found was between openness and the immersion creativity cluster. RPGs, sandboxes, open worlds, anything with a deep immersive story or a way to express creativity. Most players that enjoy these games tended to have high levels of openness, which, like we discussed earlier, is characterized by imagination and creativity. Folks high in this tend to have a broad range of interests, enjoy change, and are open to new and varied experiences. Which may explain why these people can finish JRPGs even after weird interactions like,
"You know, this is how I earn a living."
What?
Huh? Really? I thought you were just doing it for fun.
I suppose some people do.
Hello, I'm some people. Nice to meet you.
I joke, but this is 100% me. I'm here for the story, and I don't care how weird things get. I'd be willing to bet that the Undertale fanbase is full of high openness people because, again, the trait is all about painting outside the lines, which is probably why it also correlates highly to the enjoyment of sandboxes like Minecraft and games with hefty customization like Monster Hunter World. Conscientiousness was slightly mapped to the Mastery Achievement cluster, which makes sense. Highly conscientious folks are preparers, strategizers, task-oriented schedule followers that likely find challenging strategy games like Advanced Wars and XCOM to be just the right scritch to their itch. The correlation here wasn't as strong as the others, but it may shine a little light on the type of people that enjoy finding all of the achievements. Again, that highly conscientious detail and task-oriented nature probably lends itself to finding some pleasure in unlocking all the achievements and getting all of the collectibles. Okay.
So where would my sliders be if I like aim training? Would I be highly conscientious or highly competitive or what? How does my sliders look for that?
I'm gonna come up for air now. That was a lot of big words. Couple
Yeah.
things to note. The correlations here are significant and they were insightful, but they aren't exactly high, meaning that this only gives us a glimpse into what is usually the case, but is certainly not universal truths. After all, you may be the most detail-oriented, conscientious person on Earth, and yet hate playing strategy games because your personality ruins them. Maybe they just come off as a chore and you have too many of those in real life, so you'd rather unwind with something relaxing. Like I said earlier, fat grain of salt. If episode 1 and psychology studies have taught me anything, it's that
There's always a bigger fish.
and
True.
there's
Bro, that quote is so good. I find myself using that little quote more and more in life.
always an exception. But I do think that there is a lot of truth in these correlations. After all, if you're super introverted, you likely would enjoy playing alone. If you're high in openness, the stranger and more novel a world is, the more likely you are to really want to sink your teeth into it. Which, by the way, this kind of supports my personal theory of why when a new game trailer drops, you may find yourself going, not for me, whereas your buddy gets hype and just tosses it on their mountain of the backlog because they want to play it all. High openness is great and all, but if everything new is appealing, RIP to your buddy's wallet and free time.
Yep.
Or maybe you're the buddy. I'm the buddy. My backlog is bigger than my future.
True.
For what it's worth, my take on how who we are affects what we play has to do with personality reinforcement. We seek out not just games, but media in general that reflects our personality. Like Dr. Yi mentioned
Yep, give me that next dopamine hit. I need it.
in the closing statements of this study, games are often stereotyped as escapist fantasies so that we can be who we're not. But we may in fact play them to better experience who we truly are, how we actually tick, and better understand our own identities. A few studies gathered in a meta-analysis by NCBI reveals that our music and television consumption is often for purposes of identity management, emotional regulation, and companionship, especially in younger people. Which leads me to believe that in a lot
I
of
can get behind that. I mean, that's hard to say. Like, what did he say?
and companionship.
Okay, so research suggests that young people listen to music for purposes of identity development, emotional regulation, and relaxation. Okay, so for young people, whatever this means, there's probably some age range listed somewhere, whatever. Music is for identity development and emotional regulation and relaxation. But 1, 2, 3 for music, okay. Few investigations of television viewing patterns suggest that young people watch TV for companionship, whereas adults watch TV to acquire new information. I think that's pretty right. That sounds pretty spot on, but young people watch TV for companionship. I think that's what I did when I was younger, but I was like so fortunate to have like Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network, the Disney Channel when they were all good. I would get on. I can get on board with that. Whereas adults tend to watch TV for information, aka news channels, the CNNs, the Foxes, so on and so forth. Things like that. Yeah.
Especially in younger people. Which leads me to believe that in a lot of ways, gaming may influence our personality in the same way personality affects our gaming. Personality may in fact be the original spark that triggers our interest, but I think over time they act upon each other back and forth. Games may serve as a mirror that reveals what we do and don't enjoy, and what we do and don't identify with, which, especially in our earlier years, might structure who we are. Personality often runs into the nature versus nurture debate, which is almost always both when it comes to most psychology topics. Genetics certainly plays a part in personality, as has been shown in studies with twins. In fact, based on this twin study, genetic influence on the big 5 traits were all estimated to be around 50%, which means that personality is likely half formed by our genes and half by our experiences.
Yeah.
So the reason
it's about half and half is exactly what I thought.
Keep coming back to fighting games may be because you are highly extroverted, but it may also be because your first gaming experience as a kid was Melee. It may not be as black and white as your personality affecting what you play. It may go both ways.
Yep.
A couple of stray thoughts before we pull this video out of the oven. Age is also a huge factor.
Yeah.
Some research presented in 2003 suggests that as we age, our personality shifts. Conscientiousness and agreeableness tends to go up through your 20s, and openness tends to decline.
Yep. I agree with that. Conscientiousness, a trait marked by organization and discipline, and linked to success at work and relationships, was found to increase through the age ranges studied. So, as you get older, you become more conscientious of things, aka like social interactions, things like this. With the most change occurring in a person's 20s. Agreeableness, a trait associated with being warm, generous and helpful, bucked the theory that personalities don't change after 30. On the contrary, people in the study showed the most change in agreeableness during their 30s, continued to improve through their 60s. What? So, the older you got, the more agreeable you got? This happened among men, which debunks the concept of grumpy old man or grumpy old men. Huh. That's kind of interesting. I don't know. I would say it's kind of like metal. I would say agreeableness. So like you can have like a very pliable piece of metal, but it won't break yet. But you can harden that like slab of metal where it'll become harder, but the more pressure you apply to it, it can withstand it until you come closer to that absolute point of actually breaking. So I would say it's like you can be agreeable about certain topics in life, but other topics you can just be disagreeable. Like when it comes to talking about this and this, it's just like, no, that's not it. This is really it. There's this conspiracy, that conspiracy. We never landed on the moon, so on and so forth. Yeah, because like, that's really cool. That's interesting. Openness showed small declines in both men and women over time. Oh God. Oh, the older you get, the less open you get. That's true. That's a hard true. A change that indicates less interest in forming new relationships. Yep, it's tougher to make friends when you're older, and it's even tougher to find a significant other as you're older because of your openness like decreasing, and may infer greater interest in spending time with a small group of well-known relatives and friends as people age. Yep. Openness. Down stonks.
Meaning for a lot of people, you really may find yourself narrowing these genres you play. Maybe not everything new will be quite as appealing, which I think kind of supports the whole notion of identity management and formation in your early years, though I could just be seeing what I want to see with that. There are also other models of gaming motivations than Yee's that you might want to consider. Bartle's player types, for example, plots you as one of 4 different player types, depending on if you tend to be more interested in the world versus other players.
What is this? Acting, interacting, players, world. So if you like players and you like acting, killers? Achievers like acting in a world? Explorers like interacting in a world? And socializers like players and interacting. Okay.
And acting upon those things or interacting with them. Jason Vanderberg's Domains of Play model may also be worth checking out. Ultimately, it is extremely difficult to pin down just what exactly the relationship between our personalities and our game preferences is. It could be something we just can't quite grasp yet, and the research I've gathered for you today only reveals the tip of the iceberg. Then again, it could all be white noise, grasping at the wind. Small tendencies that reveal more about what we think is true than what is actually the case. But what it most certainly is delicious food for thought. If you take away anything from this video, know that there is no right or wrong personality type, just like there is no right or wrong game preference. We're all different and all seek what fulfills us. Above all, I hope that this research encourages you to make a diligent effort to understand your personality and not try to correct it. It's often said that you should just be yourself, but I know from experience that's not such a simple task. I think a better piece of advice would be get to know yourself. Take the time to learn who you are, pay attention to what makes you smile, and don't be ashamed of it. Games have always helped me do that, and regardless of how your personality truly affects what you play, I think as long as you're enjoying yourself, it doesn't really matter, does it?
Nope. You gonna like what you gonna like.
Howdy, partner. Thank you so much for watching today. You could have watched any video in the world, but you're here with me, and I appreciate that. I hope you got something of value out of this, and hey, if you want more videos on personality, like how it might affect your in-game decision making or how quickly you find yourself getting tilted, let me know by liking the video, sharing with a friend, or subscribing if you haven't already done so already. And if you'd like to pick that next topic, then you should join my dear friends over on Patreon who made this video possible and voted for this topic. Shout out to this month's featured patrons, Lucas Calbertot, Daniel King, Genji, Amro.
Yeah, this is a really good video. I like this, man. It's kind of just sucks. It's like it's been like 2 years or whatever. Like I'd never got this or seen this video before. But like, dang, this is a good ass video. And I like this dude. Like, I want to see more. I go watch some more shit. Like, dang, that was awesome. Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much it. That was awesome. I want to see more. Later.